On Hot Picks today, we are focused on airlines. Our guest first selection is United Airlines. He says it has a good exposure to premium and corporate travel, and they have been strong categories lately. We are joined by Tom Fitzgerald, analyst at TD Cowen. Tom, thanks very much indeed for joining us. So give us the bull case, as it were, on United Airlines.
Thanks, Andy. United's been on about a 10-year turnaround plan since the current management team came in and fast becoming a stalwart on par with Delta Airlines. As you noted, they're a leader in corporate and premium and also the most exposure in the long-haul Atlantic and Pacific segments. They have made significant improvements to their product, service, and network schedules that's driven material share gains in domestic markets like Chicago, Denver, and Houston. And they should have a multi-year cost tailwind from their fleet investments, as the new aircraft have more seats per departure than the aircraft they replace. So we think there's a lot of upside ahead on the EPS front, and even just without any multiple expansion, we see significant upside from the current share price.
And you say business travel is a major strength for this company.
That's correct, especially in the financial services and technology sectors, which tend to skew more towards the coast, where United has hubs on either side of the coast.
Can you give us some perspective? Did business travel come back ultimately post-COVID?
Volumes are still not at the levels they were in 2019. Revenues have exceeded pre-COVID levels in part due to inflation. Importantly, though, every improvement in business travel is material for these airlines' bottom lines, and we did see a re-acceleration in business activity since about the middle of the year.
Delta Airlines, huge operation. What attracts you here?
Yeah, they're also a leader in corporate and premium. They have a very diverse revenue mix. They're not that reliant on the main cabin, so that tends to offer them a little bit more resilience than your typical airline. They have the largest loyalty program in the industry. They've built out a pretty substantial third-party MRO business on the maintenance side. And then really importantly in the airline industry, given how volatile it is, Delta has a really strong balance sheet. They're on their way towards 1x gross leverage by the end of the decade. So that allows them to, kind of do all the major capital allocation things, including reinvesting in the business to maintain their differentiation, pay down debt, and then return capital to shareholders.
And then your final idea is a carrier called Copa Holdings, CPA in New York. Can you tell us where do they operate?
Sure. They're based out of Panama City, and they're probably best characterized as a super connector, connecting passengers north and south throughout the Americas. They have a cost structure that's probably more akin to a low-cost airline, but a revenue structure more typical of a premium business type of airline. So it makes a really attractive mix for their margin profile, where they've been recording 20+% operating margins since the pandemic ended. They have an investor day in New York in early December, where management's likely to chart the next, the path for the company over the second half of the decade. And we think there's a lot of upside, as we believe they're going to be able to maintain margins at these industry-leading levels.
So it's apparently it's the flag carrier for Panama, but its owner, Copa Holdings is the holding company. It also owns a Colombian airline.
Yeah, they own a small Colombian operation called Wingo, but that's only a handful of planes. Okay. It's a low-cost carrier based in Colombia. Copa's bread and butter is, it might be somebody in Latin America who needs to travel to North America or vice versa, a business traveler in North America connecting on for travel into South America. And Panama City is probably the best hub to do that versus other competitors in the region like Bogota or Mexico City, because it's a sea-level airport, so you don't face any penalties for when it's hot, or especially due to the elevation that those competitive airports face. So it's really great for running quick turnaround times, a really stable operation. It's just ideal for a connecting airport.
That's interesting, because it's hard to fly out of hot destinations. I can't remember what is the technical problem with heat for aircraft.
Yeah, you just face a penalty on weight, so you can't carry as much cargo in the belly as you normally would. So it just diminishes the revenue potential of the flight.
Right, and I gather they do fly to Toronto and Montreal, so they are an operator up here. Anything else in the airline industry that's catching your eye? What's the next trend? Are we going to see relentless move towards, in some categories, super bargain with seats, for example, that won't recline?
I think we've mainly seen more of an upmarket trend. Delta and then United have had a lot of success with premium cabin fares, and we've seen whether it's Southwest's recent initiatives or JetBlue installing domestic first class. We've seen a lot more carriers across the spectrum move to improve their revenue segmentation ability.
That's interesting. And the public generally are willing to pay up for more comfort on planes?
Yeah, if they feel like they're getting a better experience, absolutely. There's definitely consumer demand there. I think the jury might be out on whether some of the ultra low cost carriers with the block middle seat, how well that performs. But at the higher end, especially for the longer stage length, if you're flying over the Atlantic versus if it's only an hour-long flight, the longer the flight, the more likely you're willing to pay for the better experience.
Okay, and Tom, you spend a lot of time looking at airlines. Do you have any tips for us as travelers? Is there a mistake we should avoid when we're booking a flight or getting on the plane?
I think if you absolutely need to be somewhere that day, I usually try to book the first flight out in the morning. That's my best tip. Otherwise, I would just say pack patience in this current environment.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah, all right. It's less likely to be delayed, the first flight. Really appreciate it, Tom. Thanks very much.
Thanks for having me.
Tom Fitzgerald of TD Cowen.